Here are the highlights of this week's news on Japan Today. I'm Nathan. During a nighttime training flight on April 20th, 2 Japanese Navy helicopters crashed into the Pacific Ocean. One crew member was rescued, but pronounced dead soon after, and rescuers are still searching for 7 others. 2 of the Maritime Self-Defense Force's SH-60K choppers were carrying 4 crew each, but lost contact at 10:38 p.m. about 600 kilometers south of Tokyo. The cause of the crash was not immediately known, though one distress signal was heard. According to Japan's defense minister, an initial analysis of flight data recorders recovered from the scene showed no sign of mechanical problems, indicating the crash was likely the result of human error. The flight data recorders from the 2 helicopters were found in close proximity, along with assorted wreckage from both vehicles, signs that the 2 choppers crashed in approximately the same location. On April 19th, in Pakistan's port city of Karachi, a suicide bomber targeted a van carrying 5 Japanese nationals. Of the 5, 4 were unharmed, though 1 received minor injuries. 2 Pakistani bystanders, however, were killed in the blast. The van was heading to an industrial area where the 5 Japanese nationals are employed. Following reports of possible attacks targeting foreigners working in the area, a police escort was arranged for the van. After the bomb went off, the police opened fire in defense, managing to kill a second attacker. Responsibility for the attack has not yet been claimed, but suspicion is likely to fall on separatists or the Pakistani Taliban, who have stepped up attacks on foreigners working in Pakistan on projects such as road construction, power plants, and agriculture. We all know Japan has a birth rate problem, and despite the government's many attempts to fix the issue, nothing has succeeded. In their latest move, the lower house of the Diet passed a bill to expand monthly child allowances to families with children aged 16 to 18. In addition, the current monthly allowance for a 3rd or subsequent child will be doubled to 30,000 yen. Other features of the bill include providing more benefits to parents taking childcare leave, along with expanding daycare services to make children eligible regardless of their parents' employment status. To fund this plan, the government plans to cut Social Security spending in order to secure up to 3.6 trillion yen annually over the next 3 years. This bill and its accompanying spending plan are based on the view that, in order to boost the birth rate, the costs should be spread more broadly throughout society. If you're wondering how much you may have to contribute, it will vary based on income, insurance, and potentially more. The plan has generated quite a bit of online debate, with parents of adult children, along with those who don't have children, asking why they should have to pay for others' kids. Those in favor of the bill retort by asking who will fund their future pensions if there are fewer children in the future to pay into the pension system. No one likes a bad review. Not movie directors, not restaurant owners, and definitely not doctors or dentists. A group of 63 doctors and dentists in Japan have filed a lawsuit seeking about 1.4 million yen in damages from Google for keeping what they say are unfair reviews posted on Google Maps, the popular Maps application. The suit was filed at the Tokyo District Court, with the group claiming that groundless negative reviews have caused enormous damage to their businesses. One doctor, the head of the group of plaintiffs, said, "The operations of many medical institutions have been obstructed by slander, insults, and untrue closed-for-business posts." The group's lawyer said the reviews left on Google are unfair to the businesses, as due to doctor-patient confidentiality, the plaintiffs are unable to defend themselves against groundless reviews. A Chinese state-controlled newspaper has called Japan two-faced for inaccurately portraying China as a regional security threat, while simultaneously working to stabilize Chinese relations. In his address to the US Congress earlier this month, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida called China's recent military actions unprecedented and one of the greatest strategic challenges to the world. The ruling Communist Party's official newspaper, the People's Daily, said Japan claimed to be promoting bilateral relations, but was also attempting to provoke confrontation by exaggerating China as a threat, comparing Japan to a typical two-faced person with no credibility. Economically, Japanese companies invested much time and money in manufacturing supply chains and building relationships with local partners in China. The editorial said, if the Japanese side remains obsessed with ulterior motives and misconceptions about China, the Chinese side will resolutely make necessary responses. If you live in any of Japan's major cities, you've probably seen a lot of tourists these days. And day by day, more tourists are arriving by the plane load. According to the Japan National Tourism Organization, more than 3 million foreigners visited Japan in March, a new record for visitors in a single month. The cherry blossoms and weak yen contributed to this, no doubt. The new record represented an increase of 69.5% from March 2023. And compared to March 2019, the last March before the pandemic battered global tourism, March 2024 saw an 11.6% increase. The biggest numbers of tourists came from India, Germany, Taiwan, and the US. But the tourism boom is not pleasing everyone. In Kyoto, for example, locals have complained of photo-hungry tourists harassing the city's geisha. And the mayor of Osaka is even considering charging a new tax to foreign tourists. But it's not just cities facing these problems either. Hikers climbing Mount Fuji's most popular route will be charged 2,000 yen each, with entrance capped at 4,000 a day to ease congestion and improve safety. And now it's time for the weird and wonderful news brought to you by Gaijin Pot Study. If you want to study Japanese in Japan in October, the deadline is coming up soon, so inquire now. Weird and wonderful. I just got back from 7-Eleven. Some thieves in Japan are very morally confused, let's say. Take this guy, for example. At around 7:40 p.m. on April 15th, he walked into a 7-Eleven convenience store in the town of Komono in Mie Prefecture. He confronted the 55-year-old woman working at the register, took out a bottle filled with cleaning solution, sprayed her, and began shouting, "I'll kill you, give me the money." Instead of following up on his threats though, he panicked and ran away without taking anything. Then, a few minutes later, the same store received a phone call, which turned out to be from that man. What did he have to say? "Sakki wa gomen," meaning, sorry about what I just did. I mean, he apologized, so everything's fine now, right? The police later identified the man as 47-year-old Nobuyuki Nagata, called him back, asked where he was, and then went to arrest him. But you know, maybe if he apologizes again in court, the judge will feel bad for him and give him a light sentence. It's pretty unusual for Japan's famous bullet trains to be delayed. But you know what's weirder? Snakes on a train. That's what happened last week when a passenger alerted security to a 40-centimeter snake slithering on a train traveling between Nagoya and Tokyo, resulting in a 17-minute delay. Honestly, it's really not that bad of a delay, considering there was a literal reptile on the loose. It was unclear where the snake came from, but I do hope that snake bought a ticket through the proper channels. We aren't sure whether or not the snake was venomous, but according to a spokesperson for Central Japan Railway Company, there were no injuries nor any panic among passengers, which I assume means none of the passengers saw the snake, because if I saw a snake on the train, I would scream. "Ah! Ah!" Bullet train passengers are allowed to bring small dogs, cats, and other animals, even pigeons, on board, but not snakes. A JR spokesperson said, "It's difficult to imagine snakes somehow climbing onto the train at one of the stations, but we don't check passengers' baggage." Anyone who's seen the movie Snakes on a Plane knows what Samuel would have done. I'm tired of all these gosh. Usually when someone forgets something at a restaurant, it's something simple, like their wallet or maybe an umbrella. But at one ramen restaurant in Tokyo's Hachioji City, someone left behind a live hamster. I suppose if you run a restaurant, sooner or later you're going to have to deal with a lost and found situation, but a hamster? Who is prepared for that? Anyway, the staff put up a written notice in their window and posted a message and photo on Twitter asking who left their hamster behind. Heartbreakingly, the hamster's owner never came forward. Heartwarmingly, however, one of the restaurant's employees has decided to take the innocent creature in and give it a home. I'm going to cry. Tears of joy for this hamster finding a loving home. Ham Media, this isn't a joke, a hamster-focused animal welfare group, also posted a link to resources for organizations that the animal can be entrusted to if the restaurant employee is unable to care for it in the long term. Still, I can't help but wonder who on earth is the person who took their hamster out for ramen and then abandoned it. Find a hamster in a restaurant and everyone cheers. A rat in the restaurant and everyone riots. We live in a society. You've all heard of the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and the Mothman. But have you heard of Hibagan? Hibagan is purported to be an ape-like creature that emerged from deep in the Chugoku mountain range in Hiroshima Prefecture 54 years ago, sparking fear among locals and even a police investigation. Dozens of sightings were reported around Mount Hiba, hence the name Hibagon. The creature, first sighted on July 20th, 1970, has never been photographed or proven to exist. But even so, believers from around Japan continue to search for the atypical ape. According to the local tourism association, Hibagon stands about 160 centimeters tall, has a hairy body, and an inverted triangular face with a head twice the size of a human's. Hibagon is a short king, like me. These days, Hibagon has become a symbol of the town of Shobara, where he was first spotted. He has fan clubs and even a website dedicated to his mystery. A tour of the mountain road where the first sighting supposedly took place is planned for May. Will Hibagon show up? How will the tourists react if a hairy creature with an ape-like face comes charging at them? I know, that description could fit lots of people. Like me. And that's all for the news. Next week we'll be taking a break. Not for Golden Week, but because I gotta go to the Hibagon tour. I mean, who else is gonna look for the ape, right? But be sure to tune in the week after for double the news. Maybe. I promise you nothing. How can I film the news? I'm scheduled to go look for Hibagon on the road.